especially Zayd and his brothers in the 1st and 2nd century. Possessed family nobility, dignity, and the best of morals, because they were brought up under Imam Zayn al-Abidin, whose morals, greatness and knowledge need no mention. The best example among them was Zayd, who possessed high qualities and greatness, and who sacrificed his precious life in the path of Allah. Walid bin Yazid bin Abd al-Malik Hisham died after ruling for 19 years and a few months and was succeeded by Walid ibn Yazid. His mother's name was al-Hajjaj. She was the daughter of Muhammad ibn Yusuf Thaqafi and the niece of Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. Historians are unanimous that Walid lived a life of pleasure-seeking, wine, and women. He was the first monarch to order professional singers. He performed extremely indecent acts. 29 One of his verses is translated as follows. The goblet of wine is a fresh spring. I can't live if I don't taste it. Regarding the Syrian singer, Abu Kamil, Walid said, Tell Abu Kamil on my behalf that until he comes to me I shall remain irresolute like a woman whose son is dead. Masudi writes, when Ibn Aisha sang a song for Walid, he was enraptured with joy and remarked, "Oh, commander of my army, you sang very well. I beseech you in the name of Abd Shams, sing it again." Ibn Aisha repeated the song. Walid said, I entreat you in the name of Umayyah, sing it again. Ibn Aisha sang again. Thereupon, Walid stood up from his place and fell on the singer and kissed his entire body. He wanted to kiss his sexual organ also, but Ibn Aisha clamped his thighs. Walid said, By Allah, I shall not let you go until have kissed it. Finally, he kissed his member also, then gave him 1,000 dinars, mounted him on a mule, and said, Ride on the royal carpets. Walid constructed a wine pool in his garden, and when he was intoxicated, he used to jump into it and bathe with the prostitutes. He drank so much that its consequences became apparent when one day he transgressed upon his daughter and said, Whoever is worried about what the people would say, dies of worry. 30. Making the Holy Quran archery target board. Masudi writes that one day Walid opened the Holy Quran and came across this verse. And they asked for judgment, and every insolent opposer was disappointed. 14. 15. Hell is before him, and he shall be given to drink of festering water. 14. 16. Walid shot arrows at the Holy Quran and said, Do you threaten the arrogant and rebellious with torture? I am arrogant and rebellious. When you go before your Lord on the judgment day, tell him, Oh, Lord, Walid tore me to pieces. These were the Umayyad rulers who drank, committed adultery, indulged in sportive hunting, played with monkeys, kissed the private parts of singers, abused the Holy Prophet, Imam Ali, Lady Fatima, Hassan, and Hussein, killed the pious people, pulled down the houses on the heads of their residents, cut off the limbs of people, and exhumed dead bodies and hanged them. Adultery, wine, life of pleasure, music and other indecent affairs did not distract Walid from committing injustice, and he did not change his crooked stand against the descendants of Imam Ali. He ordered that the body of Zayd along with the gallows should be burnt and the ashes be scattered in the air. In the days of Walid, Yahya ibn Zayd revolted in Jazjan, a dependency of Khorasan, against the oppression and persecution to which the people were subjected. The governor of Khorasan, Muslim ibn Awaz, was directed to kill Yahya. An arrow struck Yahya's temple resulting in his death. He was beheaded and his severed head was sent to Walid and his body was hanged in Jazjan. It is mentioned in Maruhuz Zahab that his body was still on the scaffold when Abu Muslim Khorasani revolted. Abu Muslim killed Muslim ibn Awaz, brought down the body of Yahya, offered funeral prayers for him, and buried him there. The people of Khorasan mourned Yahya's death in all the cities for 7 days, and gave the name of Yahya or Zayd to every child born during that year. In present day, his grave is a well-known place of ziyarat visitation. These are historical facts about Bani Umayyah and their policies, ways, and manners as recorded by historians. Services of Kumayt Asadi. As a result of the atrocities of Bani Umayyah against mankind and Islam, many rebellions took place, some of which left very important marks, like the following uprisings. 1. The uprising of Imam Hussein, enjoining good and forbidding evil. 2. The uprising of the penitents Tawaban who rose under the leadership of Sulayman ibn Surd Khuzai to avenge the martyrdom of Imam Husayn, a. 3. The uprising of Mukhtar to avenge the martyrdom of Imam Husayn, a. 4. The uprising of Zayd ibn Ali ibn Husayn. 5. The uprising of Yahya ibn Zayd. 6. The uprising of Abdullah ibn Muawiyah ibn Abdullah. This was the uprising against Bani Umayyah. The descendants of Ali and Fatima laid down their lives to advance justice, freedom, and equality of people. They courted martyrdom one after another so that they might achieve this great object by sacrificing their sacred lives. This bloodshed and uprisings produced a poet who till date has no parallel in the world. He was matchless for his honesty, sincerity, and courage. He defended truth and exposed falsehood. He did not expect wealth, fame, or position in return. The only object of this revolutionary poet was to support the family of the Prophet. He encouraged the people to voice protests at a time when the truth had been strangled to death and people even dreaded to breathe loudly, lest they might be imprisoned without committing an offense. He wanted to destroy the citadels of oppression, erase the traces of oppressors, and release the people from chains and shackles of captivity. This poet was Kumayt ibn Zayd Asadi. Masudi writes, when he completed his composition, he proceeded to Basra and met the renowned poet, Farazdak. He said to him, O Abi Faraz, I am your nephew. Farazdak asked him to introduce Bis' father to him. He did so. Farazdak said, you are right. Now let me know what you want. Kumayt said, I have composed some verses. You possess vast knowledge about the Mudir clan, and you are their poet. I wish that you go through what I have composed and advise me whether I should publish or hide them. Farazdak heard Kumayt's composition, which was replete with love for the Holy Prophet and his noble family, and said, you have composed well and done a very fine job, because you have ignored those of low lineage and paid homage to the family of infallibility, which is a commendable act. You are on the right course and what you have said cannot be refuted. Farazdak said to him twice, make your verses public and disgrace the enemies of Islam. By Allah, you are the greatest of the past and the present poets. Kumayt then returned to Medina and read his verses before Imam Muhammad Baqir, a. When he recited a part of his Qasida Maymaya, the following verse made the holy Imam weep. When the sword was cutting the throat of the pride of Hashemites, Imam Husayn, the unjust people were happily raising slogans of victory. Imam Muhammad al-Baqir said, if I had wealth, I would have rewarded you. However, I pray for you, just as the Prophet prayed for the poet Hassan ibn Thabit. May Allah help you as long as you support and defend us. Kumayt also went to see Abdullah ibn Hassan and recited his verses before him. Abdullah said, O Abu Mustahil, I had purchased a property for 4,000 dinars and this is the sale deed. I call some persons to witness to the transfer of this property to you. Kumayt said, may my parents be your ransom. I compose verses for others for the sake of money and about you for the sake of Allah, and I don't accept money for that which I compose for the sake of Allah. When Abdullah insisted much, Kumayt accepted the sale deed and went away. But he returned after a few days and said, O son of Allah's messenger, may my parents be your ransom. I have a need. Abdullah replied, whatever you ask will be given. Kumayt presented the sale deed of the aforesaid property and said, please accept this. Abdullah picked up the document and accepted it. Abdullah ibn Muawiyah ibn Abdullah ibn Ja'far told the people of Bani Hashim, Kumayt has composed verses in your praise, and during these days when people have ceased praising you, he has endangered his life to expose the tyrannies of Bani Umayyah. You should appreciate his work, encourage him, and help him as much as you can. Abdullah collected money for Kumayt. Even the women donated their ornaments for him. The value of what was collected came to about 100,000 dirhams. When it was presented to Kumayt, he said, I have composed these verses to please Allah and His Prophet, and I am not going to accept money for that. Although Abdullah insisted much, Kumayt did not agree. It was, therefore, returned to all those who had contributed. Kumayt has condemned the evil deeds of Bani Umayyah in his verses. He made it known to the people that Bani Umayyah had been cursed by the Holy Prophet, and that they descended from those set free by the Prophet. In his verses, he stated that Imam Ali, is the medium of salvation in the religion and the worldly life. The well-being in this world is dependent upon obedience to him, and that the success on the day of judgment is meant for those who are his friends in this world and who are attached to his wilayat guardianship. Kumayt performed this feat when Imam Ali was cursed from the pulpits and when it was more dangerous to be labeled a Shia than to be called a kafir. He composed these verses at a time when singing Ali's praise was an unpardonable crime and its punishment was meted out in the form of amputation of limbs, hanging and being buried alive. Kumayt criticized Bani Umayyah and accused them of persecution. He narrated their cruelties which were hated even by the dacoits and the pirates and mentioned their wicked ways and crimes in all gatherings and assemblies. He told Bani Umayyah, "O tyrants, you have become fat sucking our blood. You are leading lives of luxury, whereas we are subjected to indigence and affliction." Indeed, Kumayt attacked class distinctions and instead divided the people into two groups. The first group consists of those who are gluttonous, who live in pleasure, commit crimes, and shed blood. And the other group comprises those who are thrown onto the streets like trash to die a gradual death. It is that very object which is manifested in the poetry of the Shia poets, and their forerunner is Kumayt. Ibn Zayd Asadi. George Jordak says in Al-Qawmiyat al-Arabiya 31, the poetical revolution of the Shia against the despotic rulers, who did not distinguish between man and beast, was initiated by Kumayt. Kumayt says, the Imams are politicians, but their politics is not that they should range the servants of the nation with the shepherds. Their policies are not like the policies of Abd al-Malik, Walid, Sulayman, and Hisham. Regarding Hisham and Bani Marwan, Kumayt said, sitting on the pulpit they talk of goodness and truth, but when they descend from it, they commit thousands of crimes. They say, our words are as effective as the words of prophets and guides, but our character and manners are those of the age of ignorance. Bani Umayyah imprisoned Kumayt and tortured him, but this devotee of all al-Bayt was undeterred. A verse of Kumayt says, I don't worry nor fear Bani Umayyah, because notwithstanding their power, they are base. If I die, I shall not die in the state of doubt, suspicion, hypocrisy and ignorance. When Bani Umayyah 32 threatened to kill Kumayt, the valiant man replied, O Yazid, shout, show off, roar like thunder, and threaten me. These threats of yours will not affect me. Another specimen of the audacity of Shia poets towards the corrupt organization of Bani Umayyah was Farazdak, who said about Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik, his head is not worthy of leadership and the defect of his squinted eyes is quite apparent. The poetry of Kumayt shows that he desired that the descendants of one Imam Ali gain rulership, because this family would establish justice, bring blessings for the citizens, and attract the people to themselves. Indeed, they shall become the cause of deliverance from the hardships of the day of judgment and the wrath of Allah. To achieve his goal, Kumayt did not refrain from any sacrifice. 33. Kumayt supported his claim with Quranic verses, traditions of the Prophet and logical reasoning, which he quoted in his verses. Jahiz says that Kumayt opened the door of reasoning for the benefit of Shias. Kumayt says, if caliphate is suitable for those few persons, the nearest relatives of the Holy Prophet are more worthy of it. If the caliphate had been hereditary, your claim would have been correct. I say, if the caliphate is hereditary, Bukhail and Arjab tribes must also have a share in it. Kumayt says about the descendants of Imam Ali, Ali's descendants are nearest to good deeds and far from bad ones. Bani Hashim are most kind to pay the rights of the people, and they are the best of all in the matter of wisdom. They open the hand of generosity and do not oppress or harm anyone. When the means of dispensing with Islam are brought, they display firm resolve in its preservation. They are the best creatures whether alive or dead. Their love rules my heart and only they deserve it. I do not follow anyone besides the infallible family. Who can I follow besides them? I don't follow but the true religion. Allama Iqbal says, O pivot of the praise of the tongues, O Yusuf of the caravan of lives, O gate of the city of love, O Na of the ark of love, O moon of the eraser of my false impressions, O victor of the Khyber of my heart. When we ponder on the compositions of Kumayt, we observe sincerity at every stage. As his difficulties increased, his faith became more robust and firmer. Kumait's collection of 536 verses in praise of Ali, A. and the descendants of Imam titled al-Hashmiyat, was first printed in Europe and then in Egypt. Arabic scholars, literary men, and Orientalists have also written commentaries on it. While Kumait was present in the court of the Umayyad governor, Yusuf ibn Umar Thaqafi, 8 guards attacked him with swords, and left him only when they thought that he was dead. During the last moments of his life, he opened his eyes and said, O Allah, Ail Muhammad, O Allah, Ail Muhammad, O Allah, Ail Muhammad. Reciting benedictions on Muhammad and Ail Muhammad, Kumait departed from the world, but the faith for which he sacrificed his life is the faith of millions of people residing in the East and the West. This faith will continue to exist along with Islam and the Holy Quran forever. The message of Kumait, his political ideology and faith make one object manifest, and that is sincere love for the descendants of Ali, and reliance on them in matters connected with this world and the hereafter. It was so because they were the best specimens of truth, justice, and equality. It was the reason Kumait performed jihad for the sake of his object and achieved the lofty station of martyrdom. 1. This term refers to the Tawaban movement of a group based in Kufa, who fought the Umayyads to atone for their failure to defend Imam Husayn, a note of al-Islam. 2. After the martyrdom of Imam Husayn, a Mukhtar rose to avenge his blood. The al-Sunnah scholars were busy in his character assassination till this time. Ibn Taymiyyah has even labeled Mukhtar an apostate. Fatawi ibn Taymiyyah, Bab. Al-Bagha, Trail No. 27. 3. Volume 3, pg. 15. 4. Tabi'in is the term in reference to the generation of Muslims who did not see the Prophet but they saw the companions of the Prophet. Note of alislam.org. 5. Meaning a wicked, broken down person. 6. Atrocities and oppression had reached such a level that once during the period of Walid ibn Abd al-Malik, Umar ibn Abd al-Aziz screamed, Hajjaj in Iraq, Walid in Syria, Qurra ibn Sharik in Egypt, Uthman ibn Hayyan in Medina, Khalid ibn Abdullah Khazri in Mecca. O Allah, your world is full of oppression. Now please give some relief to the people. In addition to political persecution, these people also deviated in religious matters to a great extent. They unduly delayed prayers. They delivered the first Friday sermon in sitting position. On Eids, the system of reading the sermon before the prayers was started by Marwan, and for his descendants, this became a practice. Khilafat o-Mulukiyat, pg. 187, published by Idara. Tarjuman al-Quran, Lahore. 7. Maruhuz Zahab, Volume 3, pg. 152. 8. Tariq Kamil, Ibn Athir. Volume 4, pg. 26. 9. Tariq Kamil, Ibn Athir. Volume 4, pg. 84. 10. Sharnaj al-Balagha, Ibn Abul Hadid, Volume I, pg. 114. 11. Hayat al-Haywan, Volume I, pg. 411, published by Dar al-Ishat Karachi. 12. Abu Hanifa says that when Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan was dying, he called his son, Walid, and advised him, O Walid, I don't like my dead body to be laid in the grave and that you may roam about like distressed people. You should instead wear a shirt and get ready. You should stand wearing a cheetah skin. If anyone refuses to give you allegiance, you must punish him ruthlessly and eliminate him. Hayat al-Haywan, Urdu, pg. 205, quoted from Akbar at Tiwal. 13. Al-Aghani, by Abul Faraj al-Isfahani, Volume 19, pg. 59. 14. Tariq ad-Dawlat al-Arabiya, pg. 3L9. 15. Baby Goats. 16. Sweet Preparations. 17. Al-Lqd al-Farid, Volume 4, pg. 191, published 1953. 18. Sharnaj al-Balagha, Ibn Abul Hadid, Volume 1, pg. 366 and Volume 3, pg. 476. 19. Tariq Kamil, Ibn Athir, Events of 99 and Sharnaj al-Balagha, Ibn Abul Hadid, Volume 1, pg. 356. 20. Sayfanat ul-Bahar, Volume 2, pg.272. 21. Shar Naj al-Balagha, Volume 4, pg. 520. Old edition. 22. Please note that it is the opinion of Ibn Abul Hadid. Otherwise, Imam Ali's Shaykhushikya sermon of Naj al-Balagha makes the facts evident. 23. Al-Lqd al-Farid, Volume 5, pg. 176. 24. Yazid ibn Abd al-Malik was living a life of pleasure. One day Hubaba was eating pomegranate seeds when she suddenly laughed out. The seed stuck inside her throat, and she was choked to death. As a result of Hubaba's death, Yazid's life became miserable. He lost his senses and was absolutely devastated. He was so much shocked that he did not allow the burial of Hubaba for some days. He used to kiss and fondle the corpse till it began to give out a foul odor. Then, he ordered its burial. Again, he ordered them to exhume the corpse. After that, Yazid did not live for more than 15 days. Allama Damiri, Hayat al-Haywan, Urdu translation, pg. 217, published Dar al-Shat, Karachi. 25. Tariq Kamil, Ibn Athir, Events of the Year 105 AH. 26. Al-Jqd al-Farid, Volume 4, pg. 202. 27. That means to prevent them from leaving the city. 28. Makatalat Talibayan, pg. 135. 29. Let us see the following extract of an article entitled Muhammad Shah, Rangila by the famous columnist, Javed Chaudhary, in the 7th of December 2007 issue of Express Karachi. Though in this column, the writer has written about many colorful personalities profligates of the ancient and the modern world, he has not mentioned anything about the profligacy of Bani Umayyah and Bani Abbas rulers. Probably the writer considers them to be the shadows of God on the earth. Anyway, Chaudhary writes, the real name of the prince was Roshan Akhtar. He was the son of Shah Jahan Hujjat Akhtar and the grandson of Shah Alam Bahadur Shah I. When the Saeed brothers released him from jail, he occupied the throne on the 17th of September 1719. He selected for himself the title of Nasiruddin Muhammad Shah, but he became known in history as Muhammad Shah Rangila. Muhammad Shah Rangila was an unnaturally imbalanced profligate. Day and night he used to remain drunk, and all the time busy with music and dance. He had a strange obsession of making laws and breaking them. He was such a ridiculous man that one moment he awarded anyone the highest post in the country, and whenever he liked he sent the prime minister to jail. He often arrived at the court nude, and the courtiers in compliance with his idiosyncrasy, took off their clothes. Many a time, he used to be so intoxicated with power that he urinated openly in the court and all the high-ranking officials, scholars, and nobles of Delhi applauded his antics. He simply issued orders that the next day all the courtiers should come dressed in latest garments and such minister shall put on tinkling ankles. None could dare oppose him. He used to arrive in the court and order that all the prisoners be released from the prison, and then ordered that an equal number of new prisoners be arrested. On the orders of the king, sepoys used to go out and arrest whoever they found on the street and cast them into the jail. Muhammad Shah Rangila was very fond of awarding posts and honors. Every day he appointed 5 new ministers and awarded honors to hundreds of people. And the next day he withdrew these ministries and honors. He came to the court, accompanied by prostitutes, and rested on their legs, arms, and bellies, and controlled the government. He forced the Qadi of the city to perform ablution wuzu with wine. He had proclaimed that every beautiful woman of Hindustan was his trust, and whoever cheated him in this matter would be put to death. During his rule, he gave the status of a minister to his favorite horse. Wearing the royal insignia, the horse used to occupy a place in the court along with the other courtiers. Due to excessive drinking, Muhammad Shah Rangila died on the 26th of April 1748. Even today when one sees his name in history, one laughs out involuntarily. Muhammad Shah Rangila was not a unique sample of this type. The history of the world is full of such creatures. 30. Maruhuz Zahab. 31. Volume 5, pg. 190. 32. Regarding Bani Umayyah, Imam Ali says, Beware that the worst mischief for you in my view is the mischief of Bani Umayyah because it is blind, and it also creates darkness. Its sway is general, but its ill effects are for particular people. He who remains clear-sighted in it would be affected by distress, and he who remains blind in it would avoid the distress. By Allah, you will find Bani Umayyah after me the worst people for yourselves, like the old unruly she-camel who bites with its mouth, beats with its forelegs, kicks with its hind legs, and refuses to be milked. They would remain over you till they would leave among you only those who benefit them, or those who do not harm them. Their calamity would continue till your seeking help from them would become like the seeking of help by the slave from his master or by a follower from his leader. Their mischief would come to you like evil-eyed fear and pre-Islamic fragments, wherein there would be no minaret of guidance nor any sign of salvation to be seen. This world cannot appear sweet to you in its pleasures, and you cannot secure milk from its udders except after having met it when its nose rein was trailing, and its leather girth was loose. For certain people, its unlawful items were like bent branches laden with fruit while its lawful items were far away and are not available. By Allah, you would find it like a long shade up to a fixed rhyme. So, the earth is with you without let or hindrance, and your hands in it are extended while the hands of the leaders are held away from you. Your swords are banging over them while their swords are held away from you. I swear by Allah, O Bani Umayyah, shortly you will see it, i.e. your possession, in the hands of others and in the house of your enemy Bani Abbas. Flags of this mischief are actually standards of misguidance, fixed in its center and spread all around through its offshoots. It weighs you with its weights and confuses you with its measures. Its leader is an outcast from the community. He persists on misguidance. At that time there will remain no house or tent, but oppressors would inflict it with grief and inject sickness in it. On that day, no one in the heaven will listen to their excuse and no one on the earth will come to their help. You selected for governance caliphate one who is not fit for it, and you raised him to a position which was not meant for him. Shortly Allah will take revenge from everyone who has oppressed, food for food and drink for drink, namely they will be given colocynth for food, myrrh and aloes for drinks, and fear for an inner and the sword for an outer covering. They are nothing but carrier beasts laden with sins and camels laden with evil deeds. Naj al-Balagha. I swear and again swear that the Umayyads will have to spit out the caliphate as phlegm is spat, and thereafter, they will never taste it nor relish its flavor, so long as day and night rotate. Naj al-Balagha. 33. The slogans of human rights, freedom, independence, and equality that are being raised today have the blood of the bold and revolutionary poets like Farazdak, Kumayt and Dibble etc. Shares. Bani Abbas. From time to time, there were revolts against Bani Umayyah. In the beginning of the Umayyad regime, these revolts were quickly suppressed as they were not widespread. But the revolt which Bani Umayyah were unable to quell was the one that took place during the days of Marwan Haimar, the last Umayyad monarch. On this occasion, people from various backgrounds rose against him. The army and the police force also disobeyed his orders, and even his friends deserted him. Eventually, Marwan's position became completely weak, and bribes and promises of government offices to various persons also failed to serve any purpose. A large segment of the army rebelled against Marwan, and he was compelled to flee from one town to another. As and when he entered a town, the people behaved in the worst manner towards him. When he reached Mosul, the inhabitants raised slogans against him and closed the doors of the city. Then he went to Consaran, and the people attacked his forces. When he went to Hamat there was a great furore against him. Thus, he returned to Syria but was turned away from there as well. Then he proceeded to Palestine, but the Palestinians also became aloof from him. In short, this monarch could not find refuge in any city. In all these cities, the army of Bani Abbas pursued Marwan Haimar and he fled from one place to another, until he was eventually killed at the end of 132 AH in the city of Bizr in Egypt. With his death, the caliphate of Bani Umayyah ended. So, the roots of the people who were unjust were cut off. And all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the world. 6. 45. 1,000-month rule. Masudi says, the total duration of Umayyad rule, till the time when allegiance was taken for Abu al-Abbas Safa, was 1,000 months, because they ruled for 90 years, 11 months, and 13 days. It is narrated in Tafsir ar-Razi that Qasim ibn Fazl quotes Imam Hassan, as saying that the Holy Prophet saw in a dream that the Umayyads were jumping on his pulpit like monkeys. This made him very uneasy, so Allah revealed Surah Al-Qadr and told his beloved Prophet that this one night of Qadr glory is better than 1,000-month rule of Bani Umayya. Qasim says, when we calculate, we find that Bani Umayya rule lasted 1,000 months. 1. Bani Abbas exploits the situation. At that time, the world of Islam was in the grip of a general conflagration and discontent. All the people were fed up with Umayyad rule and their intellect and hearts were drawn towards the descendants of Imam Ali. 1. Revolt against Bani Umayya took place under the name of religion and preservation of Islam. Descendants of the Prophet were the trustees of faith and the defenders of Islam. If they assumed the reins of government, they would act according to the Sunnah of the Prophet, establishing justice and protecting the rights of the people. 2. The Shias and the descendants of Imam Ali were the first group that campaigned against the crimes and despotism of Bani Umayya. They sacrificed their lives and wealth to achieve this object, and further demanded that whoever had suffered a loss must be compensated for it. 3. The descendants of Ali, and Shias of Ali, were a strong opposition group who campaigned against the rule of Bani Umayya secretly and sacrificed their lives and property in this regard. And like the holy Imams, the noble-minded Shia, too, faced out being killed or tortured. The best confirmation of our claim is provided by the following extract from Tariq Kamil of Ibn Athir. The last day of the Umayyad rule was celebrated by the people as a day of thanksgiving. They were under the impression that now the descendants of the Holy Prophet will replace Bani Umayya. Bani Abbas had risen in the name of martyrdom of Husayn, Zayd, and his son Yahya. Bani Abbas exploited the anger of the nation against Bani Umayya and took maximum advantage of the dispute between the Shias and the Umayyad regime. But who could have known that they had a dagger up their sleeve? In the beginning, Bani Abbas used to say, our goal is to topple the Umayyad regime and save the people from oppression. When Umayyads are defeated, we shall reach a consensus and select a chief from amongst the descendants of the Prophet. At the beginning of the campaign, Bani Abbas did not nominate anyone from among themselves or others as the chief. They mentioned only their first object, viz. The defeat of Bani Umayya. It was just like France and Britain saying, while they were at war with Turkey, that they were fighting to free the Arabs from cruelty and oppression and would, after achieving victory, free the Arabs, and hand over the government to them. But they betrayed the Arabs, and when Turkey was defeated, France occupied Syria and Lebanon, and Britain brought Iraq and Jordan under her control, and gifted Palestine to Israel. 2. The famous Orientalist Wellhausen writes. Bani Abbas kept secret their intention to deprive Bani Fatima of the government. To deceive the people, they used to say that they were fighting for the benefit of Bani Fatima, Lane Khorasan and other places. They said that they would avenge the blood of all martyrs from the children of Fatima. On this basis, they wanted to benefit from the support of Shias and reach to the throne stepping on their shoulders. When the Shias mentioned about power sharing, they said, we would solve this matter through consensus. Bani Abbas acquired ascendancy in the name of the Alawis, who were carrying desperate campaigns against the Umayyad rule. However, when they obtained power, they paid no attention to the Alawis and manifested their hard-heartedness and cruelty. Before the crimes of Bani Abbas are recounted, it is necessary to understand their general position. Who were Bani Abbas? In the matter of oppression, cruelty and licentiousness, Bani Abbas were the same as Bani Umayya. There was no difference between the two in committing sins openly and expressing infidelity. It was so because they had no regard for religion or divinity. All that mattered to them was worldly riches. Their carnal desires had no bounds. They beheaded people, put them on gallows and demolished houses on those who were still alive inside. Ibrahim III and his brother Safa were like Muawiyah. Mansur and Harun were like Hisham, and Mutawakkil was another form of Yazid ibn Muawiyah. As far as we know, most rulers resort to bloodshed to safeguard their throne. Or, according to their own claims, create insecurity to ensure the survival of their rule. However, what has been mentioned about Bani Umayyah, and will be described later about Bani Abbas, shows that they did not kill to strengthen their government or to ensure security. Their only object was treachery and bloodshed. Towards the end of the Umayyad rule, due to their evil character and because of their murderous ways, the revolt spread everywhere. Ibrahim, the brother of Safa, sent Abu Muslim Khorasani to Khorasan and said to him, "Listen to my advice carefully. Take interest in the Yemeni group, honor them and associate with them, because Allah completes the caliphate through them. Defame the Rabia tribe and say that the end of the Mudir tribe is near. Kill those whom you suspect and liquidate the Arabs from Khorasan, if possible. Accuse every boy who is about 1 meter tall and kill him." Ahmad ibn Ali Makrizi, after quoting the above incident in his book, and Niza wat Takasum fi Baina Bani Urnaya wa Bani Hashim says, "May Allah hold you dear." What connection has this recommendation with the recommendations made by the Orthodox caliphs to their governors? By Allah, even if Abu Muslim had been dispatched to fight against the polytheists, such recommendation would not have been lawful, whereas in this case he was being sent to an Islamic territory to kill the children of the Muhajirs, the Ansars, rather all the Arabs, to take away from them lands they had taken from the enemies and received from their ancestors. The Abbasids wanted to occupy the lands, enjoy the funds from public treasury and enslave the servants of Allah. Abu Muslim acted according to the instructions of Ibrahim. Now the question is, what is the difference between the remark of Ibrahim who said, "Kill those you suspect," and that of Muawiyah who wrote to his commanders, "Punish in the worst way every person that is accused of being a Shia of Ali and pull down his house." Abu al-Abbas Safa appointed Muhammad ibn Sa'al as governor of Mosul. The people of Mosul did not obey him, and he wrote to Safa to send another governor in his place. Safa sent his own brother Yahya with an army of 12,000. Seeing such a huge army, the people of Mosul became afraid and sought amnesty. After granting them amnesty, Yahya resorted to unprecedented bloodshed, so much so that blood began to flow in the streets and one's feet are immersed in it while walking. When night fell and Yahya heard the women wailing for their men who had been killed, he ordered that the women and children also be killed. This massacre continued for 3 days. 4. When we compare this incident with the recommendation of Ibrahim to Abu Muslim, we conclude that when it involved persecution, the Abbasids were much ahead of the Umayyads. If we had held the belief in transmigration of soul, we might have said that the spirits of Muawiyah and Hajjaj entered the bodies of Ibrahim and Yahya respectively. Safa, the Abbasid. Safa's name was Abdullah, and his patronymic was Abu al-Abbas. He was the first ruler of Bani Abbas. He received pledge of allegiance in the year 132 AH and he died in 136 AH after having ruled for a little more than 4 years. The Abbasids had come to put an end to the persecution by Bani Umayyah. However, after securing power they left even the Umayyads behind. They searched and pursued every member of the Umayyad clan and put them to death in the most horrid manner. So long as Safa felt that there was the last breath of life in the body of Bani Umayyah, he did not sit still. He went a step further and annihilated all those persons whose loyalty he doubted or from whom there was danger to the Abbasid regime, as he did in the case of Abi Salam Aqilal, his brother, Yahya, in Mosul, his uncle in the Hijaz, his second uncle, Sulayman in Basra, and Abu Muslim in Khorasan also took similar steps. Sharik ibn Sheikh Mari quarreled with Abu Muslim in Bukhara and said, "You must act according to justice. We did not give allegiance to Bani Abbas so that they might resort to bloodshed." Abu Muslim killed him and subjected his 30,000 followers to punishments. Safa was given this title, which means shedder of blood, because he shed blood excessively. It is said that he invited 80 individuals of the Umayyad family to receive prizes and have dinner. When they arrived, he ordered them to be killed. Carpets were then spread on their half-dead bodies and Safa began taking his meals. When the meals were over, he said, "I had never before had such delicious meal." Bani Umayyah deserved to be killed. However, to invite them to a feast and then to kill them, and to later take meal sitting on their bodies was such a meanness which even Bani Umayyah were not endowed with. Many persons, especially the poets, instigated Bani Abbas to shed the blood of Umayyads. It was only the descendants of Imam Ali, who forbade Bani Abbas from shedding Umayyad blood recklessly, and found excuses for the safety of those of them who were alive. Although the descendants of Ali were the target of most of the crimes of Bani Umayyah, the former did not think in terms of revenge. It was so because they were the descendants of the one who spared Amr ibn Az in the Battle of Siffin, forgave Marwan in the Battle of Camel, and permitted water to Muawiyah and his army after gaining control over it. 5 And who said, when you are victorious over your enemy, make forgiveness the thanksgiving for your victory. There was nothing new in the conduct of the descendants of Imam Ali, because they were the members of the family of justice and piety. Ibn Athir writes, Dawood ibn Urwa, a governor of Bani Abbas, decided to eliminate Bani Umayyah from Mecca and Medina. Abdullah ibn Hassan said to him, if you kill Bani Umayyah, before whom will you display your strength? Is it not a sufficient torment for them that all the time they see you on the throne of authority and find themselves abject and humble? However, Dawood ibn Urwa did not accept his advice and killed all of them. 6. It was expected that Safa would accord preferential treatment to the descendants and followers of Imam Ali, because the Alawis, Shias and Abbasids had jointly struggled to annihilate the Umayyads. Bani Abbas made use of the Alawis. Their political slogan was, we are supporters of Ali's descendants, because they knew that the people accorded more respect to the Alawis in comparison to the Abbasids, and that the people were more devoted to the former poets and the Abbasids. Intoxication of power showed its evil. As soon as they secured the kingdom, the Abbasids became aloof from the Alawis and the Shias. Muhammad Ahmad Barak writes on page 48 of his book, Abu al-Abbas Safa, the foundation of the revolution was actually laid by the descendants of Ali. Because most of the people of Khorasan 7 were devoted to the al-Bayt, 8 and were not interested in Bani Abbas. It was for this reason that Safa and the later caliphs kept watchful eyes on Khorasan so that the Shias there may not become organized against them. Bani Abbas commissioned the poets to versify their praises and rewarded them well for this. Hence the poets criticized the descendants of Ali, and declared them to be unworthy of caliphate, saying, Bani Fatima are related to the Prophet through their mother, whereas Bani Abbas are related to him through their father. Besides buying over the poets, Bani Abbas abandoned the religion of al-Bayt and adopted the al-Sunnah faith. They did this to prevent the spread of Shia faith, and that rulership may not shift to the descendants of Ali after them. In this way, Bani Abbas continued the policy and objective of Bani Umayyah and became like them in their belief, policies, and actions. Safa did not kill any Shia and did not persecute any Shia like the later Abbasid caliphs. But that was only because his attention was focused on eliminating the Umayyads and towards consolidating his power. Also, it was because Safa and the Shias had until recently fought jointly against Bani Umayyah, and the Shias had assisted him in securing power. In addition to this, Safa's seat of power was Kufa, where the residents were followers of Imam Ali, and he did not possess enough strength to fight them. Whatever the situation might have been, during the last days of Bani Umayyah and the initial period of the Abbasids, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir and Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq had a good opportunity to expound and spread the teachings of al-Bayt. It is as a consequence of their efforts that Islamic libraries today are replete with books on traditions and various subjects like jurisprudence, philosophy, exegesis, ethics, etc. Mansur, the Abbasid. The second Abbasid caliph was called Abdullah, his patronymic was Abu Ja'far, and Mansur was his title. He was the son of Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Abdullah ibn Abbas. Abbas ibn Abd al-Muttalib was the paternal half-brother of Abdullah, the honorable father of the Holy Prophet. Oath of Allegiance 4. Mansur was taken in 136 AH and he died in 158 AH after ruling for 22 years. Historians write, apparently Safa, brother of Mansur, was the first Abbasid caliph. But the real founder of the Abbasid dynasty was Mansur. Safa's rule lasted for only 4 years, and it was Mansur, who gave stability and grandeur to the regime. Mansur's nature was a mixture of good and evil. He understood people and their temperaments. He developed contacts with the people and selected a group of influential religious scholars who might sincerely support and protect the government of Bani Abbas. He capitalized on their influence and contacts for its preservation. Mansur was the first person who created a rift between Bani Abbas and the descendants of Ali, whereas before that both formed a single group. The claims of the historians are correct, except for the part stating that his personality was a mix of good and evil. It is inaccurate to say that Mansur's morals were composed of good and evil because he was intrinsically an evil-minded person. When he noticed the people's attachment to religion and realized that religion had an influence on their nature, he adopted an approach using religion. He constituted a body of religious scholars who might introduce him to the people, and also paid homage to him. Mansur made a show of piety, but at the same time committed oppression and sin. If it is said that he combined good and evil, it means that he had combined intrigue with piety and sanctity, and it was on this account that he was reckoned to be a specimen of good and evil. However, not even one proof can be put forward to show that Mansur liked goodness only on account of its being goodness, because whatever good he did, it was hypocrisy and deceit. State preacher Ibn Abd Rab al-Andalusi has written 9 in that one day a state preacher was sitting with Mansur when Mansur told his sepoys to summon a few people and behead them. When too much blood was shed and his own dress was stained with it, he turned to the preacher and said, "Please preach to me." When the preacher reminded him of Allah, Mansur cast down his head like one very much aggrieved. He then ordered the sepoys to once again bring some people and behead them. Again, when too much blood was shed, he turned to the preacher and said, "Preach to me." Mansur's asking the preacher to give him counsel was to ridicule religion and the Quran, because the Holy Quran is emphatic against shedding of innocent blood. It is also possible that he asked for counsel because the people had lost the power of reasoning and had become so stupid that he failed to distinguish between bad and good. And the conditions were so uncertain that some modern authors have written that Mansur had a split personality. They say, as he was a true believer as he attended sermons, but he had to resort to bloodshed to keep his rule safe. However, it is an impure nature which is manifested in two ways, at times in the form of oppression and crime, and at times in the form of show-off, hypocrisy, and fraud. When Mansur learnt that he was being called a God-fearing caliph and that people were pleased, and that their fondness for hearing sermons increased, he summoned preachers, heard their words, and gave them rewards so that they might propagate among the people that the caliph was not oblivious of Allah. Whenever the judgment day was mentioned, he would begin to weep. These preachers were not unaware of Mansur's aim. Hence, those who were pious and sincere left him, whereas those who had considered religion a source of income flocked around him. Mansur also wrote to Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, and invited him to attend his assembly, but the Imam did not agree to go there. Mansur wrote in one of his letters, "Why don't you come to me like others do?" The Imam replied, "I have no material wealth on account of which I may fear you, and you have nothing in the hereafter that I may seek from you." One day Mansur saw Sufyan Thawri and said to him, "Give me some good counsel." Sufyan said, "You have not acted on that which you know, and now you want me to tell you what you do not know." Mansur said, "Why don't you come to my place?" Sufyan replied, "I do not come to your residence in obedience of divine command. Allah says, 'And be not inordinate, O men, surely, he sees what you do.' 11:112. And do not incline to those who are unjust, lest the fire touches you. 11:113. Mansur said, "Tell me what you want." Sufyan replied, "Do not invite me to your assembly and don't give me any money till I ask for it." Mansur said, "I have hunted many religious scholars by means of wealth and captured them, but Sufyan has escaped. He tires me off." In this way Mansur has disclosed his aim in associating with ulama and revealed the fact that he has made religion a tool of hunting and made money a means of capturing the ulama. Mansur and the mysterious preacher. It is said that one night, while Mansur was performing circumambulation of the Kaaba, he saw a stranger who was saying, "O God, Injustice and corruption have appeared, and separation is created between truth and its followers. And I complain to you regarding this and seek your assistance in the matter. Mansur summoned the stranger and asked, "What were you saying?" The stranger said, "Do you vouchsafe for me safety if I say something?" Mansur assured him that he would remain safe. The stranger said, "You are the ruler of Muslims but have raised a wall between yourself and the people. And do not permit people to contact you and tell you of their grievances. Your ministers and advisors are unjust, and your workers are pleasure-loving and sinful. They say, Mansur is deceiving the people and Allah, and we therefore have no alternative but to be deceptive with him. In this way the entire country has drowned in oppression and injustice. However, you believe in Allah, you are the son of the prophets. Uncle, and you are very kind to the Muslims." Mansur said, "O Lord, grant me tawfiq, divine opportunity to act upon what this man says." This is actually a fabricated story that historians and scholars of ethics and preachers narrated from the pulpits. No one has objected to this story, and all consider it authentic. But in my view, it is merely a fiction. If it were not fabricated, the counsel giver would not have been a stranger. If it was Prophet Khizr, why did he appear for Mansur only and not preach to other tyrants too? It seems that through this story Mansur wanted to tell the people that he was made caliph as per divine will, that he had faith in Allah, he was the son of the Prophet's uncle and was kind to the people. He accomplished this plan by claiming that he met Prophet Khizr and thereby proved that Allah had shown kindness to him through Prophet Khizr. Masudi writes that one day Mansur entered his room and saw the following couplets written on the wall. "O Abu Ja'far, your death has drawn near. The divine decree must come to pass. O Abu Ja'far, fortune tellers and astrologers cannot ward off death. Don't be foolish." Mansur summoned his minister, Faisal ibn Rabi, and said, "Did one not order you to assure that none should enter the house and write on the walls?" Faisal said, "What was written?" Mansur replied, "Can't you see these verses?" Single quote. Faisal said, "By Allah, there is nothing on the wall." This event resembles the activities of the agents of colonialism who condemn colonialism publicly, but secretly work in the interest of the colonialists. In the above paragraphs we wanted to prove the falsehood of Mansur and expose his deceitful tactics. Our real object in discussing Mansur's beliefs was to throw light on his policy in relation to the descendants and Shias of Ali, Mansur and Imam Ali's descendants. Apart from Abdullah ibn Abbas, the family of Bani Abbas was an obscure and unknown family. If not for their relationship with the Prophet, they would not have been mentioned at all in history. On the contrary, Imam Ali's family, Bani Hashim, possessed perfect knowledge and faith in every age, and the hearts of the people were inclined towards them. All of them, from Imam Ali, all the way to Mahdi, possessed unparalleled greatness and virtue. In order to acquire dignity, Bani Abbas thus linked themselves with Imam Ali, his descendants, and the Holy Prophet. They attended the assemblies of Imam Ali's descendants with great respect and acquired knowledge from them. When Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Hassan mounted a horse, Mansur held the stirrup and brushed his dress when he was seated on the horseback. When the Umayyads were on the verge of defeat, the descendants of Ali, and Bani Abbas rallied around Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Hassan and gave allegiance to him. Ibrahim, Safa and Mansur were among them, but Mansur showed greater zeal for allegiance to Muhammad. Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq was also invited to this gathering and on his arrival, was asked to accept allegiance. He tapped Safa's back and said, "This man will become the caliph." Then he pointed to Mansur and said, "After him, the caliphate will come to this man." Thereafter, turning to Abdullah ibn Hassan, he said, "Your two sons, Muhammad and Ibrahim, will be killed at the hands of Mansur." Having said this, the Imam departed. 10. After Safa, when Mansur became the caliph, Muhammad ibn Abdullah went into hiding. Mansur demanded him from his father and decided to eliminate him on account of the Pledge of Allegiance. Muhammad owed him to relieve himself of anxiety. He, therefore, engaged detectives to arrest Muhammad and his brother Ibrahim. Eventually the two brothers felt that they had no alternative but to surrender to Mansur or wage a war against him. Hence Muhammad raised the standard of revolt in Medina and Ibrahim, in Basra. They fought, but they were finally killed along with a large number of descendants of Ansars and Muhajirs and the children of Ja'far ibn Abu Talib and also the children of Imam Husayn, Husayn and Ali, 2 sons of Zayd ibn Ali ibn al-Husayn were also killed in the company of Muhammad, known as Nafs Zakiyah. Masudi writes that Mansur had a sweetmeat made of kernel and sugar prepared for him and ate it. He liked it very much. He remarked, Ibrahim wished to prevent me from taking this and other similar foods. It was as if it was nothing serious for Mansur and he killed the descendants of the Prophet only for the sake of tasty foods. Atrocities of Mansur. It is mentioned in Maruhuz Zahab 11 and in Nizawat Taqasim 12 that Mansur gathered Imam Hassan's descendants and ordered them to be put into chains and iron collars. They were made to mount litters without saddles and sent to pitch-dark dungeons, as was done by Yazid in the case of Imam Husayn's family. In such a situation they divided the Quran into 5 parts and before each daily prayer they recited one part of Quran. The prison they were kept in did not have toilets and they were obliged to empty their bowels at the place they resided. As a result, its foul odor caused their bodies to swell. This swelling commenced from their feet and reached their hearts. They departed from the world on account of serious illness, hunger, and thirst. Makrizi has quoted from Tariq Kamil in Nizawat Taqasim that Mansur summoned Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Uthman, a brother of Imam Hassan's descendants from their mother's side and ordered his dress to be torn till his private parts were visible. In that condition he was given 150 lashes. Once the whip struck his face and he said, "Woe betide you! Spare my face at least." Mansur ordered them to strike his head. 30 lashes were, therefore, given on his head. One of those lashes struck his eyeball, which came out and fell on his face. At last, he was put to death. Ibn Athir writes that Mansur also summoned Muhammad ibn Ibrahim ibn Hassan. Muhammad had such a delicate build that he was nicknamed Brocade. When he arrived Mansur asked him, "So, you are the yellow brocade? I swear by Allah that I shall kill you in a manner none has been killed." Then by his order, Muhammad was buried alive in a pit and a pillar was constructed over his body. Muawiyah used to bury the people alive without allowing them to say anything, but Mansur buried them alive and built pillars on them. Thus was the difference between the Syrian regime and Iraqi kingdom. And this very policy distinguished Bani Umayyah from Bani Abbas. We have not seen during the Umayyad rule that one of their governors imprisoned some individuals in a dungeon where all of them died one after the other under unbearably odious surroundings. Hence, a poet says, "By Allah, the crimes of Bani Umayyah were not even 1/10 of those of Bani Abbas." It is mentioned in Nizawat Taqasim 13 that Qasim ibn Ibrahim Tabatabai had an estate in Medina, which was called Ar-Ras. When Mansur summoned him also, he left Medina and ran away with the intention of going to Sind. In his verses, Qasim says about Bani Abbas, "Shedding our blood has not satiated Mansur and he is still pursuing us. The fire of their malice can be extinguished only when none of the descendants of the prophets' daughter is left on earth." Qasim walked barefoot and his feet bled as he fled from one city to another. He says in a couplet, "It is hoped that the bone joiner will set the broken bones." 14 I have not lost hope in Allah. He will indeed help those who suffer hardships. It is mentioned in Nizawat Taqasim 15. Mansur entrusted a room to the wife of his son, Mahdi, and administered an oath that so long as he was alive, she would not open the room. When Mansur died, Mahdi opened the room and he saw that dead bodies of descendants of Abu Talib were lying in it. Their parentage was written on pieces of paper, hanging from their ears, and some children could also be seen amongst them. Makrizi writes, "What connection such crimes have with justice, with the religion of Muhammad and with the conduct of religious leaders? What link has this hard-heartedness with the kinship of the mercy of the worlds? By Allah, these actions have nothing to do with religion and faith." On the other hand, these indecent actions are mentioned in Quran as follows. "O hypocrites! But if you held command, you were sure to make mischief in the land and cut off the ties of kinship." 47. 22. Those it is whom Allah has cursed so he has made them deaf and blinded their eyes. 47. 23. Is this the conduct of one who claims that he has faith in Allah, the Judgment Day and the Quran, and that he is the Caliph of Allah and son of the uncle of Allah's Messenger? Imam Ja'far is Sadiq and Mansur. Mansur gave the title of as Sadiq to the sixth Imam because Imam Ja'far had earlier correctly predicted Mansur's rulership. He had also predicted that Muhammad and Ibrahim, the two sons of